Oh, and we're back. You know what's funny is I never changed the away screen to having the
Yeah.
actual. That was the generic cover.
I was just looking at the away screen and
Yeah,
it
there you go.
says there's some person called like Rena the Destroyer, Messy Cat.
You're lucky that
Lila.
Rena's not here because she would tear
who are
you
they?
up. She would tear you up. All right, there we go. Sorry, I had to put the proper away screen on there just so people know who you are because nobody cares.
Oof.
Just about you, Neil. Just about you. We good?
Not anymore, we're not.
So he comes out and he's a full-size man, freaking out like a rat for a couple of seconds, and then he like clearly is like clenching out his hair and his head, and he's like freaking out, like for a couple of moments, and he's like looking around and so confused, like he's just gone through hell. Like he literally was a rat in every sense of the word. Like we're talking, has the thoughts of a rat, the memories of a rat. Like he was a rat in every sense of the word for almost 3 minutes there. He is horrified. Needless to say, it's a good thing Jake not here. He don't need to roll no intimidation. You know? So
Yeah, I know. Just like that's quite enough of that.
that's quite enough of what?
He's shrieking.
No. As he's saying that as he sort of comes to, suggesting the idea that like that's quite enough of resisting.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that's why I wanted to catch your meeting because out of game I didn't know. She said it's quite enough of that, and he kind of like continues to look around as he's like realizing, no, I'm not. I'm a man. And he literally is like, I'm a man. I am a man. It was a trick of the mind. It was magic. It was a trick of the mind.
It was magic. It was not a trick of the mind.
He looks up at you, and like because he's like shrunking on the ground, like all and he's like looks up at you, and you should see the look in his eyes. It's a look that like wishes the most horrible of deaths upon you. And now he starts to slowly rise again, like he's bringing himself up. It's not like slowly rising in a menacing, like, oh, I'm going to take you. Slowly rise because it's like a pain, sort of like re-stretching the muscles back out. Slowly rise, but the look in his eyes, like it is daggers dripping with venom and fire and stuff. It's rough. It's rough stuff.
Now you have one chance to avoid any future happenings. Who sent you?
He looks at you, and he looks at Rayron, who's now there. And you can like he's like thinking. You can see. Roll me a sense motive.
Okay.
Boom.
Rayron, you can see the look in this man's eyes. Oh, that's funny. I thought that was Rayron. You can see the look in this man's eyes. He looks like a man that's seeking death. Like not that he necessarily wants to die, but that he has a purpose and he's dedicated to his cause and understands that sometimes your death is better for your people, right? And so he has that like look in his eyes, and he tried. They can clearly kind of like put together what had happened, even though Tesh had explained it to you prior. You can put two and two together just by looking at this man. He had tried before to bring himself to die at the end of a blade, sort of a thing, so that he didn't have to go through torture or anything like that. But then he suffered through probably a worse torture than he had ever been prepared for in any experiences in his training or anything like that. He was literally turned into a rat for a period of time. Like that, it mind, body, everything. Like he is freaked out. So it's like this tear in his mind. Like he doesn't know if he should cave or if he should try again. And he gives because he wants the worst of things to Tesh. But for not Tesh, sorry, Tesh, everybody loves you. For Valorant. But
The best thing is, Valorant doesn't know his spell well enough. He probably didn't realize he put him through that much. He was just like, just turn him into a rat. This is how these spells work, right? They come back fine.
It's like somebody just like fires a few rounds up in the air, like with a gun. It's like, hey, guns are fun. Meanwhile, 3 minutes later, what the hell? Bullets come down. Tesh walks along. That was fun. Shooting guns is fun. So anyways, yeah, so how would you can see he's torn. He doesn't, he doesn't know if he should act, not act. He doesn't know.
Think about how unpleasant that situation was. Now imagine that situation, but involving a cat. They toy with their prey. Imagine the very simple, the very basic fear, all-encompassing, all you can imagine, all you can focus on. That is what remains for you if you don't tell us what we want to know.
Intimidation. Obviously, the DC has been affected. I was hoping it was a 17. And you're 15. I mean, it's not a terrible roll, but do you care to enhance that in any way, just in case? Because these numbers aren't rounded fives.
Young.
How many did we have? We had 4. We have 4. If we can get this guy to talk without having to do anything more, I think it's worth it. Because, yeah, I think it's worth.
It's better than nothing.
Hey, we got another one, so it's 4 left anyway.
Ding.
Correct, actually, and more. You say these words, and he looks, and he looks deflated, but still has that fight in him, like a cornered animal, right? He's kind of like feathers or whatever, ruffled, like frilling up, and he's like, this is worse than anything they do in my country. It makes sense why a rat would join your country. Your pathetic little... Commander Holbrook.
Okay. Just, I would just look to Rayron if he's got anything else to do. Otherwise, I'm done here.
Commander Holbrook, I presume you're from the Paradel military.
He scoffs. Again, it's one of those, he's being impertinent, like holding on to anything that he has. He's got nothing.
Tell me more about this commander. What do you know of him?
Read the history books.
You know,
There's a bit of a chuckle from Valorant, just as like oh yeah, history books, they'll be accurate, totally.
And Valorant, you can actually, if you would like, you can actually roll a knowledge history or local. I mean, that is literally your country. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That's a good point. Knowledge history is definitely what I'm rolling.
I'm a pretty right boy.
Nice.
Okay.
Take a victory sip.
Would you like to luck pool that one there, good man, sir?
I'm gonna tell you it's a fucking DC 30.
It's not a DC
He's just trying to get you to wipe off.
He's a dick. Okay.
Well, you know what they say, you are what you eat. Give me 2 seconds and I'll answer your question, sir.
This is where it being 2 a.m. helps you, Scott.
All right, so it's the only time that you're funny, Scott, when it's 2 a.m. for me. So you actually know exactly who that is. That is the commander of. I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. Zalgov. Zalgov is one of the cities or city-states or whatever the regions of Vala. Vala being the province of Paradel. That's immediately to the north of Idir. In Vala, there's 3 regions or city-states. One is Momli, one is Zalgov, and one is Zatishk. So Zalgov would be the one. It's actually the furthest of the 3 of them. The furthest of the 3. And it's funny that this is being said because, as you know, what he had done in the past, what's his name there? Jaeger. He had a huge part in the war against Jovance. So he would have been working not through Vala, but actually through Bard and fighting west of Bard. This is a place that's north, and if it maintains a battle, would be aiding the Battle of Tiziandale or fighting Eldamar. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't really be part of Jovance. So if there is any amount of grudge between the two of them, it'd be more of a personal level and nothing that would be in the history books. So you don't really know of that kind of degree. But you do know that Holbrook, Commander Holbrook, is known, similar to how Jaeger was, is known to be successful without there being a lot of bloodshed of civilians. However, because you rolled so high, you kind of like have that insider or that like rumor kind of knowledge that the reason why that happened is because very often people would go in and gut out opposition before the soldiers actually stepped foot on the battlefield. So there was a lot of like, okay, dink, 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 kind of like remove several of the pertinent cards from like a house of cards. Shit. And the soldiers just kind of come in and go and blow it all down.
Okay, so in other words, I realize this is likely the first prongs of an attack.
But mind you, it was targeted at a very specific person of that same military as opposed
to... that is...
Yes,
okay.
You are correct. You are correct, though.
Yep. Oh, sorry, he would... When he says, like, you check the history books, he would have the chuckle, and then realizing, because, oh yeah, look back. And with that, he would just say, when you're... ready, I will be in my room. Gets a guard to stand in with him in my place. And then on the way out, I would find Kithel and just...
I was going to say, Kithel will stand in there. No, so on your way out, you grab Kithel, yep.
We may have more of a problem. This assassin... the commander they work for and the way that they do war, this may be the first prong of an attack. They send assassins first, take out targets they deem necessary, and then they move in.
Kithel nods.
We need to make sure we have scouts to the north as well.
Nods again. He says,
and then,
says, there is that castle to the north. Nobody's been there in some time. Joseph the Quill, he says, looking back into the doorway, went there not terribly long ago. Perhaps we could send some of our...
Did we know he went there? He said he was going up the stream.
He told one that he was going there, didn't he? No.
Yeah, he told only
he told one. Yep. And one would have told you, and
but...
there's no reason not to and whatnot, right?
Oh, that's a good
because you
point.
guys spent some time together. He's like, Rayrin went there recently. I don't know how many guard we can spare because of the number that we're going to be moving over to Rid. But it's not a far walk from Rid.
I think Rayrin probably wouldn't have mentioned that to Baron.
Yeah, I that's kind of a big deal.
Then we will skip the whole Rayrin went there recently. Like, I know you haven't been there in a long while, but except guards, and so slightly alter the conversation.
It might be worth the idea. Be careful. Make sure we send good soldiers there, ones that can defend themselves well.
I intended to accompany the soldiers that are going to be watching over the refugees in Rid. Perhaps I do that for a time and then branch even further.
Maybe. This is a conversation for the whole group once this is all sorted. I will be in my chambers. And he's going to go into his chambers and he's going to go look through his research and try and piece together all the different tactics Parendale uses to make sure that we're ready.
As you're going upstairs, and you go, because remember, you come upstairs, you come out into the throne room, then you go up the actual like grand staircase, and you go around the bend and walk along kind of like a thing. As you're like walking along that thing, you actually see you hear footsteps inside the throne room coming through the main entrance to it. And it's not one of those like it's one of those you toss a cursory glance down there, and you see 1, 2, 3, and General Jaeger walking into the throne room as you're walking towards your bedroom.
Yeah, no, like full on just jaw drop. Wait, General Jaeger?
You say General Jaeger. You catch the attention of all 4 of them, and they look up. I imagine everybody looks up at you. General Jaeger calls up to you. It's not weak, but it doesn't have the full force that he usually has because of his current condition, and says, chosen of the hearth.
How?
One would just speak up then and say it was Vrogar's will.
Good to see you well. Weller. Who... It doesn't like the whole... This is the realization of the head count. 1, 2, and then a new person. Who is this?
She looks up at you with a smile and says, 3.
Oh.
I'd make my way up the stairwell for a formal acquaintance, but it seems as though you seem as though you're occupied.
A great deal is happening right now, but the more the merrier, he says, sort of like, and turning around and sort of just, I need to look at some specific notes.
3 will actually nudge 1.
He's just like,
If he doesn't say anything, just kind of a half roll of the eyes. Was 1 captured? She says to Tesh.
What captured?
An assassin. Did you capture 1?
Oh, the one with the names. Anyway. Yes. One of the assassins is captured. Rayron is down with him now. I got a name. And now looking over it, I love how I got his name right before, and now my mind is completely blanked on his name. Leon Blah.
Jaeger.
Jaeger, thank you.
You guys see that bad joke that Norway made after Unfunny One's question? It's actually brilliant. It's a brilliantly bad joke. It's a perfect dad joke.
Jaeger, they were sent by Commander Holbrook.
When he says that, literally, General Jaeger kind of almost swoons for a second. Again, he's not himself at the moment because he's like in a lot of pain. He kind of like swoons for a second. He like kind of takes like a half step back to catch his balance and says, he like shakes his head to get his stance again, and then looks at you and nods.
Yeah, so he knows what the reason why I'm going to check notes and stuff now, or at least has an idea, I imagine.
Leon, would you like to go speak with your would-be killer?
Oh, that would be interesting, considering he's pretty... I imagine he's pretty sure he killed you. Well, I mean... Anyway, just like trying to comprehend what to like follow that up with.
Jaeger, when you're pretty sure he killed you during that like lag there, General Jaeger will chime in and say, "It wouldn't be the first time somebody mistakenly believes they'd won a victory over myself."
Well,
so do you wish to speak with him?
I warn you,
he looks at you and just nods.
I warn you, he is looking for a quick way out. Do not grant it to him. He wants death. Don't give it.
He looks at you and says, "Not yet."
Not yet.
One kind of like rubs his hands together and he's like, "Let's go."
So after Valoran kind of disappears, 3 will turn to 1, and she says quietly. So hopefully 2, who's often distracted, doesn't hear, and hopefully General Yeager, who's mentally going to be distracted at the moment, doesn't hear. But she says to him quietly, "Not very bright, is he?"
One just laughs.
I hope the other is better, because the friends you chose to replace us with.
Sure, was a bad time to show up. Come on. It's, kingdom's falling apart. There's a riot. Assassins trying to murder our general. It's just a time when everyone's got it screwed on properly.
Flashing back downstairs while that was happening, Rayrin, you're in the room with the boy. The boy.
Rayrin would ask one final question. He wants to know where he and his compatriots came from. Like, physically where they came from. Whether there are any camps of them nearer.
He listens to the question, and he takes like a couple steps away as you're like asking the question, and he kind of like crouches down in the corner, and you can see he's kind of sitting there, and he doesn't respond. He's just kind of like looking down at his feet.
I'm just gonna prepare a spell in case he decides to leap Gollum style at me.
There's a guard in the room with him. I asked a guard to be in there with him.
Do you repeat the question?
To repeat the question.
No. Does your character repeat the question?
He'd give it a while. Man has just been turned into a rat after all.
Okay. After a while, he kind of like mumbles a response.
Speak up.
There's another gap of time. Kind of mumbles a response again. Do me a tiny favor. Roll me a perception check.
He's trying to commit right now. Let's go and intervene. That's what my wisdom tells me.
Yeah.
Rayrin's gonna step forward and check the man.
Okay. So you step forward, you go to check him, because like I said, he kind of like crouched down in the corner or whatever. Not his back to you, it's like, his back's against the wall, so his sides to you or whatever, and he's kind of like his hands down or whatever. And he seems to be like fidgeting a little bit, but just kind of like, almost like he's like shivering and kind of like rubbing at his leg or whatever. Like he just seems distant. Like I said, he's staring at his feet. And he mumbled, and then you're going to go intervene. So obviously you're cautious. You're not an idiot. You're cautious as you go, make your approach forward. You kind of crouch down to see exactly what it is that he's doing down there. But then while you're doing that, all of a sudden, he's going to like lash at you with something in his hand. He like grabs something in his hand and he tries to like swing and lash at you. You didn't see it coming, so it kind of catches you off guard.
Can I not cast my prepared spell?
Well, it does catch you off guard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be nice enough that I'm going to say that prepared spell doesn't work, but I'll allow you to roll an initiative. Because you did safeguard against this. Hopefully I roll well. Oh, God damn it, you rolled well. Roll well, Scott. Roll well, Scott. Roll well, Scott. Come on, you can do it.
Come on. Yeah.
No! Come on! Oh, God!
What is that, a 1? Is that a 1?
No. I rolled that. Yeah, I don't have a +5. So, he lashes out at you, but you very quickly are able to react first. Because it's technically your turn first, you can cast the spell that you're kind of thinking about casting, or you do something else. What do you do? Sorry, Steve.
Sorry, boys, if this is gonna obliterate him. Rayrin catches the hand as it comes out towards him, and sparks fly.
Ooh. Is it 15 damage?
Yeah,
because you're cast level 4, aren't you?
Yep, but it's.
My God.
Well, no, it's rolling. It's rolling double damage. Why is it rolling?
No,
it would be the 7 damage.
No.
It's not rolled an attack roll.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, where's the attack roll? Yeah.
Let me fix this. One moment.
Yeah.
That's weird.
If you have to fix it and then re-roll the whole thing, that's fine.
Roll 20.
No, it's unfortunately every time they do an update, little tweaks
Yeah,
that
I
you
know.
do, they have to fix
I was
them.
about to say I should probably check that my stuff still works. My
So it would, yeah, it
little
would be the
things.
damage at the top that it would take. Do you want me to just re-roll it all again flat? Because
Yeah.
he's like 7 damage isn't enough to
No,
kill him.
no. It's just because it didn't fully function. Fully reroll.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't have any fancy stuff on
There
this
we go.
character.
Oh
but I did.
Jesus!
Jesus Christ.
That's are you kidding? That's although the attack roll.
What did you roll?
Yeah.
Where's your modifiers on your attack roll, man?
Oh fuck's sake. I was like, why have you not got an attack up? So it should be a touch.
A 3, 5, 6, and a 6.
Just make sure your modifier looks correct before you click it again. Sorry.
That is how you literally turn this man into dust.
Yeah, I know.
That'd be cool. That'd be kind of cool and funny one, especially if we fix all the little bugs, and then just use a static sheet forevermore after fixing the little bugs. Because we currently run 3 campaigns in Pathfinder, including the one that you were part of, which they had some fun a couple nights ago.
Range touch. Yeah, so this one should be right.
Okay.
I'm sorry about this.
You're fine. You're fine. Maybe you
I
actually.
don't know why. I don't know why it didn't work.
There you go. That's beautiful. It's a much better chance to hit. So you reach out and you grab the boyo, and you electrify him. So it's literally, he has something in his open palm. What it was some sort of like vial or whatever it was, and he's going to like open hand slap you with it. But you reach out and you grab his wrist right as he's going to do it, and you grab his wrist and they finish the incantation. And you can see literally smoke coming off as like his sweat and everything from being down there, his moisture, the wetness on his clothes from like everything that transpired, because obviously he was cold sweating after that transformation, starts to turn into steam off of his body. And you can see his eyes roll in the back of his head, his teeth are chattering and whatnot, and he falls unconscious before you. I don't know if you choose to react after that or not, but he does fall unconscious before you.
The vial's not cracked.
Oh, so the vial. So my apologies, because it was an open hand. Because you're looking to slap you. The vial actually does tink tink onto the ground, and you can see that there's like a spider kind of like cracking along the actual vial, but it hasn't fully broken open yet.
In which case, I will carefully pick up the vial. And call for one of the guards to fetch me a bigger vial to put the small vial in.
The guard that's inside the chamber doesn't do that. He rushes over with the sword drawn, get ready to like thrust it through this guy's chest to make sure he's down. Another guard kind of pokes in, realizes that you're not joking around, some shit's going down in there, and so he just turns off and runs up the stairs. You're gonna see one as like she's having that little, and you're like chuckling at, I hope the other one does like that whole bit. You're going to see a guard like flat on starting to sprint past you, like skid to a halt and turn and be like, I'm grabbing down there. And then just kind of runs past you again. And what do you do as your guard's coming over and getting ready to thrust this guy in the chest? He's unconscious before you. Do you do anything?
Just got through explaining that we don't want
Obviously,
him
he's
dead.
going to stand up and he's going to say, "What are you doing? He's a prisoner. I've dealt with the situation. I want him alive. Strip him. Search him, make sure he has nothing else on his person.
Okay. So,
No harming him."
okay.
Make sure he lives.
And then what do? Do you just kind of like wait as they're doing this, and probably another guard comes in and assists?
Yeah, I mean he'll like watch.
Okay.
And make
So
sure
another
that-
guard will come in and assist. One of the things you'll notice, and one I imagine you're going to rush down the stairs at this point. One of the things you're going to notice as soon as they start doing, is they pull his legs straight, is literally the bottom of one of his boots has been like removed. So it's like a twist and remove off. I think one of you guys actually have one of those in the party. It was like twisted and removed off with like a storage compartment was clearly inside there. So they like pull off the boots and they're like, I found where he took it from. And you're like, yeah, I see it too. And they literally go and like unfasten his pants and pull it down to his knickers and stuff like that. But at the same time they're doing this, one, you're rushing down the stairs ahead of 2, 3 and Jaeger. To get down there, and you walk in the room to see the unconscious body being like stripped and whatnot. And there's clearly like a smell of burning flesh and everything inside there. What do you do as you rush in?
Just rushes through the door, stops, looks down. Have you killed him, Aaron?
Nope, just shock the hell out of him. I'm afraid
I'm
he
gonna walk
happened.
up and heal check him.
Sure.
Thank
Continue,
you.
but Aaron.
That's fair enough.
I like
Here-
how you were just assuming he was alive. I'm like, don't No.
Obviously, I have such fantastic control of my magics.
Oh, he's dead.
He seems dead.
Oh shit.
Coming into the chamber, you see a short, red-headed woman come walking in with tight braid coming down her back and everything, like short. I don't want to say she looks intense because even though she does, she also has softness to her as well. She doesn't come off as this overly hardened woman, but she has a bit of a softness to her too. But this red-headed short woman comes in, clearly a Hafue, walks in, doesn't even look at you or at the guard, just kind of walks past them and over to where one is, and immediately starts looking at him with one, and then she kind of she's like, his tongue, and she kind of reaches over and grabs open his mouth, and she has such tiny hands. She starts reaching in and grabbing his tongue and trying to pull it out. And she looks up at Rayrin for the first time. She's like, "Do you have something?" He swallowed his tongue. When he seems to contemplate, because he's oh, and he seems to be contemplating for a second, she reaches over to where one is in front of her and reaches across the body and grabs two's dagger and just reaches in and plunges the dagger into his mouth and just starts sawing and severs the tongue and pulls out the tongue that had flipped backwards and into his throat, so it's at least saved, and leans him forward with one's assistance, leans him and turns him over so the blood's at least pouring outwards, and says, "We need to cauterize it to one quickly."
I'm not able to cauterize it.
Do you not have a torch?
I do not.
Oh no.
Does anybody have fire magic?
Yes, but I'm not sure it's appropriate in this situation.
Josh, use the vial.
Oh, this whole scene is a big old note from me.
Fireball.
You fireball his mouth.
That's a descended belly if I ever saw one.
That's how you make someone pop.
That's a spicy meatball.
It's night time. The torches hung up on the walls. I dare say there would be.
I mean, it's a dungeon. There's always torches, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just grab the dagger off her and just hold it over the thing. I mean, that's as much as I can do.
Yeah.
So you could get it a bit hot and then just...
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you push it in there. It's one of those things where I imagine you also kind of grab your boot and you bend the dagger enough so it's not just a tip going in, so it actually has a bit of an angle to it. It's bend the tip of the dagger, get it nice and hot, and quickly get it in and just cauterize the wound. And he's unconscious. His tongue clearly at some point in time must have bitten off the I forget what that's called there, but the piece that's underneath your tongue that holds it from being able to come out too far or go in too far. That must have been either fried or bit or whatever it was, and the whole tongue had flipped back in his throat, and she just severed the tongue. So he's alive. Could have been a little bit more graceful than that, but somebody didn't check too quickly. So it was a last second save of he's technically alive. That's a good thing. Jaeger's watching from the doorway, literally, it's one of those things where if anybody turns back after the situation's mostly resolved, if you turn back and look at Jaeger, he actually gives this kind of almost a looming look to him as he's standing just outside the circumference of this light and within the circumference of the other light, so it's almost a backlighting to him, giving a looming cover to the front as he's standing in the doorway. Arms always, rested behind his back, that military pose, and he stands out watching intensely as everything's happening.
I think if Rayrin saw that, he'd literally yelp and stagger backwards.
Tripping over the process, she accidentally slips the dagger into his...
No.
No. So...
One
No,
just
more
looks over
like
to
one of those whistles, though.
So he says, Leon, don't worry, I'm sure he can still write.
What's going on? How is... at this point, Rayrin would take a couple of steps forward, to ascertain the fact that Leon is physically real, and he's not just sitting there and it's a face he can see in the shadows. How did this happen?
It was Vrogar's will. I told you that in the temple.
He'd give Leon like a long stare in the eyes. And he's going to sense motive. Are you well, my friend?
So you sense motive, this is, what's his name? Jaeger?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you say, are you well, friend? And you say that to him, and he's honestly, he heard the yelp and everything. He kind of looked at you, gave you a nod, but he's watching what's happening on the ground. You say, are you well, friend? It seems to fall on deaf ears as he's still watching what's happening on the ground.
The general died.
And Vrogar brought him back.
And you didn't think to at least put the poor fellow on bed rest?
When you say
Thought he'd
that,
wanna-
because he's kind of like listening, you can speak first, but then he'll kind of chime in.
One was just going to say, well, we were on our way back when we learned that you had his looks on the ground killer in the dungeons, and I thought he might want to speak to him.
Our country is in a critical state. I didn't want to be lying down when the head of state needed my services.
My friend was in more than a critical state. You should rest, Leon. We'll be fine for a day or more. At least take some little time to begin to come to terms with what has happened to you.
I'm coming to terms quite rapidly, but thank you for your concerns, Chosen of the Quill. And he never looks at you. He's still staring at the guy on the ground.
Yeah, I made a big note of the fact that he just said head of state.
Mm-hmm.
No S. I fear he will not be talking for quite some time.
I think he may have already said enough. Holbrook, right?
So he said.
He nods, and then for the first time, he like kind of, he'll blink and then look to make eye contact with you and says, I didn't bring a lot with me when I came here. I brought no notes, nothing. The commands that I served when I was in Paradel, I told you that those secrets were theirs, and to remain theirs, and that I would serve you with all of my abilities without turning my back on them. Alas, they have turned their backs on me, in a far greater way than I ever would have expected. I will take my leave, and I'll take my time, but not to rest. Instead, I'll be compiling some details. Details about Holbrook. Details about the military, the strategies. If we are going to have an enemy that surrounds us at all sides, we need to know how to properly handle them. If I may, I'll get started on this immediately.
Take the night, Leon, but we must present you tomorrow. People think you're dead. They need to see you not.
Maybe it is best to keep it that way for now. Misinformation is a powerful...
Half of our soldiers, some of our soldiers have already seen him. Word will get out. I'd rather get ahead of it.
It's better to have conflicting information fed back to the enemy. If half of our people say that Leon is dead and half say he's alive, they won't know what has happened. Right now, we have the advantage in information. We hope. We should keep it that way for as long as possible.
I believe the morale people will get will be more significant in this case. Look, if Paradel were to attack us, we're fucked. Like, I don't think they're out to get us. I think maybe Holbrook, was it? Maybe has some type of personal vendetta, maybe, against Leon. But I think right now Leon should make himself known.
Morale will take a hit if Leon is presumed dead, that's true. However, morale will surge far greater should Leon appear on a battlefield when he is needed most. There is no reason why he cannot have his actions done by one of his trusted subordinates for now.
Chosen, if I may. Perhaps the two of you also need a night to contemplate what decision you want to make with the kingdom. It has been a harsh evening for all of us. All of us have much to contemplate on, and probably an evening's rest is the best to do it with. I'll take my leave now, and I'll start compiling things as soon as I can, as soon as I am able. I will, of course, adhere to whatever decision you make. And then he gives an appropriate bow to each of you, and then he'll turn and leave.
Leon?
He stops, turns back.
I'm glad to have you fighting at our side once again.
The fighting has only just barely begun. Things can only get worse from here. Let's just make sure the morale of the people stays high, lest the soldiers lose their stomach. And he bows again and turns and leaves.
Valren and Juan are here, right?
Actually, Valor went to his bedroom. He's like, that was a rough night. He's like fapping one out in his room. Like, I just gonna calm the nerves, you know what I'm saying?
Now he's making sure he's got all his notes about Perrin war history around.
That makes me think, if you have like minor illusion, I suppose you could just like make your own. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. You know what?
Okay, let's not do that. Let's not go down that path. We don't need to add to this world.
One. Can we have a brief discussion before we retire for the evening?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, he did tell you where to find him if you need to go get him.
I think we could make our way up towards Valren's room. Like the prisoner situation's in hand. It's being looked after. There's 2 in the castle.
He is. He's with 3.
I see you have another one.
He just kind of looks at you and he's like, "I told you she would come."
Which is a damn sight more sightly than the last one.
A 2 standing right there. He's not listening though. He's watching. He's actually genuinely entertained with what's going on.
I mean, this is like, I imagine we're beginning to walk now.
So 2 and 3 will stay behind with this prisoner and with Kithul to make sure that he is appropriately like not going to die, but also is properly watched and whatnot. Unless you guys choose for Kithul to follow with you, he'll actually stay here for a while longer, make sure everything's secured before he also needs to go. And several of your command, your heads of, your persons of note, like your advisors and whatnot, several of them are not going to really be able to sleep tonight. They're just going to be pulling all-nighters, going for tomorrow, so on and so forth, because they have to get things back under order. And I imagine even at least one of you guys will be doing it as well. And then luckily tomorrow you can actually kind of like get time to rest. Fortunately, coffee does exist in this world. And even though you don't have incredibly the best beans that are offered on the continent, you can make a decent cuppa. That's right, coffee, because tea's for, never mind. Tea is like a Paradel thing. You know what I mean? Tea is like the drink of an expansionist empire of like...
of the refined nation, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Expansionist empire of refined nation that, presides over others predominantly with slavery and... Yeah, anyways. So, so coffee is the drink of freedom here in Idir. And do you guys kind of like go to engage in any more conversation? Do you kind of like go off and do your own things from this point? What's the...
Yeah, I thought Raven was going to say something.
Yeah, he was. I was just waiting. Raven was just waiting to be a bit more out of shot of the other 2. What happened?
With Leon.
With Leon.
He looks you dead in the eyes and he says, "I told you. Rogar brought him back."
Yes, but I want maybe a detail or 2. Did a huge bearded orc come down and drag the man kicking and screaming out of Lady Aravel's realm?
Not quite. I was praying, asking Brogar to bring him back to us, to take him from Lady Aravel. And there was a pause. Nothing was happening. And then, out of nowhere, there was a knock on the door of the shrine. I opened it, and there was 3. She came in, and we spoke with Leon. She cast some spell that allowed us to talk with him. We asked him if he wished to come back. He said he did. I said to him that it would be Vrogar bringing him back, and he said by whatever means. So, 3 had us sever his connection to the martyr, and sever Lady Aravel's connection on him, and she brought him back.
I see.
So much for the martyr not letting us have him. I believe that's what you said, right?
Yes. Well, forgiveness only goes so far, I suppose.
I won't bother you with it tonight, but I was a little busy earlier. I will want to speak to you about what you were going to tell me before, but we'll leave it for another time.
Yes, of course. It's nothing urgent. I was simply distressed in the situation.
When people are distressed, things come out that they sometimes would not like. Something is weighing on you, Rayron, and you should know that of all people, I hope you can confide in me.
Thank you, Juan.
That's
That
your shoulder.
helps steel my resolve. He'd pat back. Now, we should get a night's rest and reconvene early in the morning.
I'll stay out and coordinate what's going on. You get some rest, and maybe go Valoran's room, or have someone go up there and tell him not to pore over books all night. We'll probably need both of you in the morning.
Send him to bed. Go to bed, Valoran!
Which,
It's
honestly,
like
he would forget to go to sleep if someone didn't do that, most likely.
You imagine he's literally in his room, like poring over books, and he hears like mom, go to bed, Tash. And he's like,
I have to save the kingdom, damn it.
it's that meme of the woman screaming at the cat, going, just trying to save.
I haven't found the save point.
Rayron would go by and he'd knock gently on Valoran's door and he'd say, "Get some rest tonight. We'll need your wisdom in the morning."
Right, yes. Thank you. Night. He says through the door. Just sort of, that not yell, but yell, like loud enough he can hear it, but not like yelling.
Yeah.
It's funny the way that you had said, just tone and everything that you had said will need you in your natural accent. The way that you will need your wisdom in the morning. It made me think of Wesley from Princess Bride. He's like, "Good night, Wesley. Good job today. I'll most likely kill you in the morning." You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, it's so funny. But I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but it's brilliant.
It's fantastic. I've actually got the DVD somewhere over there. Fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's I used to. It literally says "as you wish" in my wife's wedding ring, and it said it over my daughter's crib at my old place, whatnot. Or bed, I should say, at my old place. Literally the reason why my wife and I married each other is because of competing who knows more quotes about that movie, and who knows more Batman lore, and not modern Batman lore, like Batman lore from back when he used to use guns and fight Goliaths, all the way up to today. It's like the arguments over who knew more at like parties is how we fell in love. So that's the way to a dude's heart. She has a Batman tattoo on her ass, and I was like, that's the one. That's the one right there.
And there it goes.
Yeah.
It was all sweet, and then no, never mind.
Yeah. That's a swing and a. You know what I'm saying? Don't clip that. Actually, she's at work today. She might be watching.
I'm just waiting for someone to come in and hit Scott.
No. She's at work today, but she might text me. Be like,
gives a new meaning to the term Batwing.
Anyways, moving on. So you guys, does anybody stay up, or does everybody go and get their kingdom now?
God, yeah, I go to bed.
I stay up.
Okay. So 1, you're going to stay up. After that schmuck is taken care of, 2 and 3 will of course join you by your side. And 3 will actually talk to 2 and be like, it's one of those like arguments. No, go to bed. Like you're annoying if you don't get enough sleep, sort of a thing. And it's kind of like that sisterly, brotherly kind of like, with one another. And eventually she just goes and he eventually and will go and find himself some time to rest. And don't get me wrong, she clearly looks weary from the road. She traveled a good distance to get here, but she also just arrived, and the nation kind of needs a bit more of a healer's touch, and so that's kind of what she does, and what she's kind of good at, and so she'll join you. I don't know what if you, of course, welcome to her to. I don't know what your plan is, where you intend to go, if you intend to talk to any of your other what are they called, advisors, if you're going to send them off to do any specific tasks, anything like that.
Pretty much he's staying up just to more or less coordinate what's going on. Like, have we got everything handled? All the refugees we captured, make sure they're locked away. Find out what the damage is. Doing crisis management, I guess.
Mm-hmm. She does kind of she leans in for her opinion of things. Obviously, it's your kingdom, and she's not stupid enough to overstep her boundaries yet. But she will. She'll actually suggest. She'll be like, so all of them that incited violence, I imagine there'll be some degree of pardoning because of misunderstanding of the situation, and some degree of punishment for those that incited.
I was thinking of hanging them all actually in front of the other refugees.
That would send a message.
It would. We were kind enough to offer them asylum, and then they attack us in the night. I think there's only one way to handle it, right?
Would that send the right message?
What do you suggest?
We need to send a message, and we need people to understand that there are consequences to actions. The wrong message to the refugees is turning away potential practitioners. We need them to know that we are fierce, but at the same time, we don't want them to fear us so much that they don't wish to join us. Our enemies need to quiver, need to second-guess themselves. They need to be pissing when they see us on the battlefield, and then we have them slip in it, and that will be their grave. I say that all that you wish to hang, we do so, but we march them to the south first, and hang them outside the walls of Hod Gwen. Let Hod Gwen see what happens when they send their ilk to ours. We don't need to explain why it was that those particular peoples were hung. They just need to know that it happened.
He nods and he smiles and he says, "You always have such good ideas, 3.
Takes years." She says kind of like jokingly, because you're pretty sure you're older than her, but you don't know because a lady never tells her age.
So yeah, he would agree with that, and say, "I'll bring it before the other 2. Hopefully, I can swing one of them."
She nods and says, let's just switch to Dark Souls music. Let's not do that. We can switch back to this kind of music.
It's the final boss!
Oh,
No,
I'm in Darkest Dungeon.
boss.
Sorry, Darkest Dungeon. That's even
That's the
scarier.
music for trying to convince Valorant to hang these people.
was like, yeah.
He walks up towards Varen's room, and there's just a grey mist wall in front of it.
No, but I think Darkest Dungeon is literally the music that you should have for whenever 1, 2, and 3 are around each other. Like,
Yeah.
all right. So, anyways, so my apologies. So she would go around with you and kind of gather things. And so since you're about and doing your job, one of the things that you'll notice is the number of people that are gathered up as being persons that did some sort of attack and survived, of whatever degree, injured, fine, whatever it is, degree. You're actually going to gather together a dozen of the refugees that survived enough that aren't going to be dead by tomorrow morning, sort of a thing. That survived and are kind of like fine. And these are the people that were a part of it. I imagine you want to find out who it was that kind of like instigated this whole thing. And that's the reason why you're staying awake. Why don't you do me a favor? I know you have spells that you can use to entice this, but most of all your investigation is going to be happening with an intimidation check. 3 will not intervene. This is not her place. She'll just join you and quietly sit back and watch, because it's not her place at all. She's just being your companion because you're fucking tired, and it's nice to have a buddy around for moral support. So why don't you roll me an intimidation check to see how the overall thing takes place?
I could just order 20. What is it?
Every time Scott gives him an
26,
intimidation
thanks.
check, he's all right. Shit, fuck.
I'll take my 26.
Do you want to modify that for greater success, or?
You know what? I will. I'm gonna do it. 27.
Cool. So 27 total in intimidation. You you talk to all of them and try to discern what it was. And as far as you can tell, it actually was not provoked. This is, again, several hours of work, so on and so forth. As far as you can discern, it actually was not provoked by the, was it 2 assassins? Yeah, 2 assassins that were there? Mm-hmm. No, three assassins?
Two assassins.
Okay. So by the 2 assassins that had attacked Jaeger, they actually did not incite it. If you understand the motive well enough, they may have just taken advantage of the time, or it was pure coincidence that both took place at the same time. You don't know, but from the perspective of the refugees, it doesn't seem like those particular people were the ones that incited it. There was already unrest and so on and so forth, and more or less arguments between guards and refugees sparked more and more and more, and then people took actions to their own hands, and then that kind of sparked the next thing, and just like it just escalated very, very quickly. And people like, kind of ran forward and incited others, and things just fell, like a snowball down a hill, right? It became an avalanche. So that's kind of what you get at the end of multiple hours of research and whatnot. At this point, why don't we actually take another quick break, and we're going to pick up again with one having the fatigue condition and everybody else waking up in the morning tired, like RP-wise, tired, like exhausted, whatever, but no conditions or anything like that on their character sheets. So we'll take a couple moments to let that settle in, and we'll be right back, everybody. All right.
How many points of condition stuff do I heal?
None. You're dead.